Jesus, he is one of the most central figures in two of the world's biggest religions, but the story of his life is told in two, well, profoundly different ways. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to compare the narratives of the Qur'an and the Bible, see where they line up and where they diverge in some really dramatic, faith-defining ways. Okay, let's just jump right in. We're not starting with some heavy theology. We're starting with a moment of just raw human feeling. These are the words of a young woman, Mary, all alone, about to give birth. And her pain, it isn't just physical. It's this deep, deep fear of what her community is going to say when she shows up with a baby, but no husband. This one line from the Qur'an just sets such a powerful, emotional stage. So both stories kick off with the exact same miracle, right? The angel Gabriel appears to Mary and tells her she's going to have a son. But from that one shared starting point, wow, the events that happen next could not be more different. Now get this. It's what happens right after the birth that's so telling. The Quran story focuses on Mary's social trial. I mean, she's alone, people are accusing her, and her honor is saved only by another miracle. Her newborn baby literally speaks to defend her. The biblical story, on the other hand, puts her fiancé Joseph right there by her side, and it focuses on a completely different set of problems. And this is where you see the biblical account introduce this immediate political threat. You've got King Herod, who sees this newborn king as a rival, and it forces the family to become refugees and run to Egypt. This whole entire episode, including the really central role of Joseph, is just not in the Quran's telling of the story. All right, so Jesus grows up. What happens next? How does his public life, his mission, actually kick off? Well, both scriptures describe how it all starts, but you guessed it, the events are, again, strikingly different. It's all about the framing, right? In the Islamic account, his mission starts directly with this divine revelation from God through the angel Gabriel. But in the biblical account, it begins with this symbolic act of baptism by John, and then it's followed by this intense 40-day spiritual test in the desert where he's tempted by the devil. And, this biblical scene, it naturally brings up a really deep question, one that people have thought about for centuries. It's a point of reflection in Christian theology, for sure. Why would the devil even try to tempt someone who is believed to be God in the flesh? It's a question that really gets to the heart of Jesus' nature in the Christian tradition. But for all these different beginnings, what was at the absolute core of his message? Well, on this slide, we see Jesus in the Gospel of Mark, and he's quoting the Old Testament, hammering home the idea of the oneness of God. And that core belief in pure monotheism, that's a really powerful point of alignment with his message as it's told in the Quran. Okay, let's talk miracles, because man, they are a huge part of his story in both traditions. They're the proof of his special status, so let's take a look and see how these signs and wonders actually stack up. Wow, okay, just look at this table. It's fascinating, right? You see this clear overlap on some of the most profound miracles. I mean, raising the dead, healing the sick. But it also shows these miracles that are totally unique to each book. The Quran has him speaking from the cradle, while the Bible has him walking on water and feeding thousands. It's like each set of miracles highlights a different part of his mission. And if you look closer at the ones that are only in the Quran, you start to see this interesting pattern. Speaking from the cradle, that was an immediate defense of his mother's honor. Creating a living bird out of clay, that's a super clear physical sign of God's power. It seems like these miracles often served as instant, undeniable proof of his divine mission, right then and there. All right, now we're getting to it. This is, without a doubt, the biggest fork in the road, the most significant, theologically defining difference between the two stories, the end of Jesus' time on earth. So here's the thing. Both accounts completely agree on the setup. The religious and political leaders felt threatened by Jesus. His teachings were shaking up their power, and he was getting super popular with the crowds. So they cooked up a secret plot to get rid of him. On this point, the stories are perfectly in sync. But what happens next? That's where they split, completely. And here it is, the absolute fundamental split. The Christian narrative, which is the very core of its theology, is that Jesus was crucified, died, was buried, and then, 3 days later, rose from the dead to atone for humanity's sins. The Islamic narrative says, nope, that didn't happen. God stepped in, saved Jesus from his enemies, and raised him to heaven alive, making someone else look like him to the plotters. One event, two totally different outcomes that literally define each faith. And in the biblical story, you have this incredibly haunting cry from the cross. It's a moment of such immense human suffering. And it's been the focus of 2,000 years of really deep theological discussion and debate about what Jesus' sacrifice really means. But here's the twist. After that massive, profound disagreement over his final days, the story isn't over. And believe it or not, the two narratives actually come back together on one final, super powerful point about the future. Yep, it's really that simple and that profound. Both Islam and Christianity teach that near the end of time, Jesus is coming back to earth. Now, in the Islamic tradition, his return has a very clear mission. He's not just a savior figure, he's a leader and a clarifier. His whole purpose is to defeat falsehood, correct the misunderstandings about his own original mission, and bring all of humanity together under the single, pure, monotheistic message that Islam teaches was the original message of all the prophets, including him. And that brings us to this one last incredible scene from the Qur'an. It's a prophesied conversation on the Day of Judgment. God will ask Jesus directly, "Hey, did you tell people to worship you and your mother?" And Jesus' answer is meant to be the ultimate testimony, the final word, clarifying his own message once and for all. It's a final, powerful question to think about. In the end, what will be the final word on his incredible story?